Earnestly Speaking Podcast. This is August 5th, 2019, on a Monday, and I'm actually doing this episode on the road because I don't know when I have time to go do a show, for that matter, inside the studio. I know I have another podcast I scheduled for Wednesday, SummerSlam preview that I'm going to do, but I wanted to do a solo pod. I've been trying to do one all weekend, and every time I get a chance, well, I think I have a chance to do one, something comes up. And we got a lot going on here at home. You know, my oldest son is returning to school next week, and we're preparing for that. He starts first grade. We got a mini vacation we're preparing for to see family in Orlando. We're going to be gone for the weekend. A lot of things going on this week between the wife and I in terms of organizing and whatnot. We're pretty type A when it comes to that kind of stuff because, you know, we want to be prepared early, even if it's a weekend trip. We want to make sure we have all our bases covered, whether it may be, you know. So all my time is been sapped away. Any free time we do have, I do have to do anything, it's been pretty much sapped away. So I'm trying to get all that done. So I figured, you know what, if I do a podcast here, might as well just do on the road. You know, I typically like to do these shows at home, and it's kind of like in the confines of my own home, where I have my tea or my water or whatever may be next to me. I don't have that right now, but that luxury now. But right now, best is better than nothing. And I'll have a little coffee, a little allergies flare up again. You can hear in the background I'm in actually in our SUV. It's raining outside, but don't worry about it. I'll be fine. I'm not gonna. I have the phone in one hand, my wheel, the steering wheel, my hand in the steering wheel. So we're good. We're good. Football is back for the most part, somewhat. I guess. I'll say for the most part, somewhat. I did not watch any of the Hall of Fame game last week. As you guys know, listen to this podcast for years. I don't really care for preseason football, though I am excited about the year. But just like the NBA, I feel like this season is wide open. And to be honest with you, the NBA, the NFL has always, for the most part, been that way. Like, even though you have your certain number of teams that are in the mix, you know, there's always a surprise here and there. You'll get a surprise or two every so often that pop out of nowhere. And the NBA has always been pretty much 2 or 3 teams that you know are going to be battling it out, and pretty much you have an idea which team is going to be your overwhelming favorite. We don't have that this year in the NBA. The NFL has always been pretty much the most parity-driven league, you know, by far, and it has been for quite a while. Even and this is even in the era of the Patriots doing what they've done the last almost 20 years. But it's not guaranteed to get the playoffs, to the Super Bowl rather. You know, it's not guaranteed. You know, there's always they've lost randomly to the Giants twice, lost randomly to the Eagles a couple years ago. So it's not like the Pats are the overwhelming favorites. The Pats have always been a favorite, but it's never really been overwhelming for the most part because football is weird in that way. You're one big injury away from some things turning, the tables turning in your favor. So naturally, you'll still have teams that hang around. But this year's intriguing too because the Pats right now are year to year. You know, you have the Browns who made all these moves. They got Odell Beckham Jr. You know, remember last year they went from an 0-16 team to winning 7 games and were in the mix at one point to make the playoffs. They were at week 16 was still had a chance to make a run. So you know, Pat Mahomes last year made a major impression in the rest of the league. He took the league by storm last year. So there's so many things this year to look forward to. Storylines. You know, I think maybe later in a month I'll blog about that. But you know, list of things I'm most looking forward to this season. But this season's gonna be fun. I can't wait. Like I say, if you told me right now who are probably the favorites to at least be in the conference championship picture, you know, I can make a case for about 8 to 10 teams right now who I really feel are in the mix, and then that's not including surprises that may pop out of nowhere. You know, obviously in the AFC, New England is obviously always in the mix. You know, you look at Indy. Now I know Andrew Luck is recently has got a calf injury, but all reports says that he'll be ready to go. Obviously, Kansas City last year made that big run. Now, obviously, Tyreek Hill, and you know they don't have the running back they lost last year. Not Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles. Kareem Hunt. He's now in Cleveland. But you know, Kansas City now how will they adjust? How will teams just against see now that they have tape on Pat Mahomes? I mean, he had a phenomenal, well, actually it's the second year in the league, but, he only played, one game his rookie year? You got the AFC. I mean, the AFC is pretty wide open for the most part. The NFC is even tougher, I think. You look at, I think the Eagles are the favorites to go, assuming Carson Wentz stays healthy. They to me, they're the favorites to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. But they look at teams like, even the Cowboys. Now obviously, the Ezekiel Elliott situation is going to be very interesting to see where they go with that. If they decide to pay him, which I think they should pay him. I did a mini pod on the Unfiltered podcast, which you could check out on the on iTunes and the other feeds. Earnestly Unfiltered. I did a 3-minute episode on why the Cowboys have no choice but to pay Ezekiel Elliott. They have to. They just have to, because he is their offense. You look at Chicago, who made strides last year. Can they maintain that? Minnesota had a letdown last year, but they still got a great roster. Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. Let's see if they bounce back. The AFC South is interesting. I think the Saints come back to earth a little bit this year. You still got Carolina, who I think will bounce back this year. I think Atlanta's still formidable. The NFC West, obviously with Seattle and Russell Wilson, of course, one of the top 3-4 best quarterbacks in the league. They're in the mix. San Francisco will get Garoppolo back. The Arizona Cardinals, obviously, they're not a playoff team, but Kyler Murray being the starting quarterback, I believe will be the starting quarterback for the team. Week 1, the number 1 draft pick. There's a lot of things. Of course, the Rams. I thought the Rams won the Super Bowl last year, but Todd Gurley's knee issues and whatnot. How's that affect the Rams going forward? Jerry Goff's due for a new deal very soon, so there's a lot of question marks there. So you can't. There's no way you can really call a absolute favorite this year in the NFL, because, quite frankly, it's wide open. It's as wide open as it's ever been, in my opinion. So this season's going to be truly fascinating. Obviously every year we do our over-unders, win totals on the podcast, like a week leading up to the season with our own Zach Degenerate, which we will obviously be doing. We'll probably end up doing a little earlier this year. Most likely what we'll do was, after the third week of preseason, we'll probably end up doing that on this podcast. Over-unders. I did pretty well last year for the most part. But fascinating year. I can't wait for that to become a reality when we start the season. Now, what's funny now is a month and a half ago on this podcast, I had said that, and actually this is a rule I adopted last year when it pertains to the New York Mets, that when the Mets are uninteresting by the All-Star break and they are not even close to being in playoff contention, I just don't bother committing time to watching them. I am a diehard Met fan, obviously. I love the team, but at the same time, when you have so much other things to do, especially in the summer, when you have kids that are home and you got to entertain them on days on end, unless the Mets are actually competing, or competitive, should I say, it's almost worthless watching games, or he's dedicating time watching games when these games really in the end don't really matter, because unless you're watching players grow, which of course you should be doing that, but regardless, it's almost pointless to watch the team. But something's happened in the last couple of weeks now where they're surging now, and I believe right now they're only 4 back of the wild card, maybe less now because they won last night. And all of a sudden, they started to grab my attention again for some reason. And with the schedule softening up a little bit recently, it definitely lends for the opportunity for the team to actually step in and actually, make some noise. But no, look, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I just think this is a late July, August blitz. That ultimately, by the time it gets to September, I think they'll cool off. But you never know. But at least the team is showing some fire. At least the team is showing that, okay, hey, we belong to be in the conversation of being a playoff team. And to their credit, they fought. Now that we joked around, we did the last episode with Mark Francois on the podcast. He had said, we had talked about that a little bit, about how the Mets are heating up. And he goes that the Mets aren't heating up, they're finally defrosting, because they were cold for the first few months of the year. And that's actually a great analogy, because to be honest with you, he's right. The Mets came in behind the ball. They were at the All-Star break in early July. They were I believe they're 14 or 13 games behind first place in the division, and they were at the time 10 games behind the wild card. There's no way you can make them up much ground. Not only that, you have teams ahead of them right now that are still in the mix. So there's a lot to ask for the Mets to do that, but there they are. They're now 4 games, I believe, maybe less now. Last I checked, 4 games, behind the wild card race, and you still have all of August to go. You still have all of September to go. There's still a lot of baseball to be played. Now, could they maintain this going forward? I personally don't think it'll happen, but I love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. We'll see what happens there. I mean, but again, it's really cool to see that they're at least competitive. And to be honest with you, like they shouldn't have been as bad as they were this year. Like, they didn't have any really major injuries this year with the pitching staff or whatnot. They had some bats. Obviously the rookie Pete Alonso had a phenomenal year. This team shouldn't have been as bad as they were. Okay, if they weren't a playoff team, fine, but they shouldn't have been 15 games behind the NL East. That's ridiculous. For a team is down to the Mets, and with on paper, one of the 5 best starting pitching rotations in all of baseball. There's no way this should have been as bad as they were, but they were. And for some reason, Mickey Callaway, the manager, got a lot of blame for that, and I get that. But here we are. The Mets are back in business, and let's see what happens. You have all August, you have all September to go. 4 games back in the NL East, in the NL wild card. Look, they're not going to win the NL East, so the only way you're going to get in the playoffs is through the wild card. The NL East is I believe they're still like 10-11 games behind the Braves in the East. But stranger things have happened. I mean, the Mets have been on the worst side of those things. I mean, the Mets have held 7-game leads with 14 days to go, and somehow blew divisions. So we'll see. But I'm glad that they're at least somewhat interesting now as we get to August. So anyway, so I just realized recently, because I've seen the Ringer is actually doing these podcasts now on Woodstock 1999, that this year is actually the 20th anniversary of Woodstock 1999. And the only reason why I even want to talk about it real quick is because I actually almost went to Woodstock 99. I was 19 at the time, and I remember earlier that year, sometime around the spring, when they announced the show. Well, first of all, they announced all the bands that were playing, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And obviously, the main reason I wanted to go was to see Metallica. Metallica was headlining the Saturday night portion of the concert, and I would definitely have gone to see them. The main reason I was going to see them anyway. But the entire bill was amazing. Of bands I was heavily into, and bands I would probably eventually get into in the years to come. But I decided I chickened out because no one could find anybody to go with me to Woodstock 1999. No one wanted to go with me at the time because I saw them thought it was too risky because of the field it's on. I didn't consider that either. So because no one wanted to go, I decided not to go. I said, screw it, because it's in New York. Obviously, I was still living in Florida. I was still living in Florida, and I didn't want to fly by myself and go to the concert by myself. And I don't know. I wasn't motivated enough to go alone. And once people who I would go with started pulling out and started saying, maybe not this festival necessarily. It's like, okay, fine, I won't go. And I'm kind of glad I didn't go. Like, on one hand, it was a great show. Like, I remember MTV running clips on the they run clips during the show. Some of the bands that were playing. I remember one of my most famous clips. I still remember to this day. Was they were playing Korn set from a Friday night. And God, the crowd was going absolutely fucking bonkers. And I remember thinking, wow, I feel like I should have went to the show at that time. But then hearing the stories afterwards and seeing the fires and some of the things that happened there, some of the stories about the toilets not working and it ended up becoming a disaster, some of the negatives of why you don't ever go to a show like this. I mean, they were unprepared for this show. This is the first. I mean, they did Woodstock in 1994, but this is by far the most disorganized of the 3 they did. And I remember thinking, well, I'm glad I didn't go to this show because I back at 19 years old, I don't think I was still mature enough to handle those situations. I was still come from a very conservative background, not really worldly in that way to where I could understand how to handle situations like that. That's why when some of my friends didn't want to go to the show with me, I said, well, this is not even worth going by myself, even if it is Metallica, which, by the way, I saw Metallica later that year anyways, it doesn't even matter, but they came to Florida, or Miami at the time. But I don't regret not going still because of the situation, but God, that had been an experience to just be there, even though Woodstock 1999 was mired in a lot of like negativity with the bad situation, the fires that happened during the Chili Peppers, Red Hot Chili Peppers set on the Sunday night. The show itself, like you watch the show itself, minus all that, it was this musical galore. I mean, I believe James Brown played that one too. I know a couple bands I love played that show. There's a lot of bands and artists that played a show that I would love to have seen. Like at the time, I wasn't a big Seven Us fan. In fact, I didn't really care for Seven Us back then in '99. Obviously, not one of my top 5 favorite bands of all time. But God, I'd been awesome to see Seven Us. Back then when they were still relatively new, they only had 2 albums out at the time as a band. So that would have been a really cool experience as well. So yeah, Woodstock 1999, man. That was God, man. That would have been fun. But then again, I'm glad, based on everything that happened in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't go because that would have been a disaster. One of my buddies said he went to the show. He said he left early enough to avoid all the disasters. But he said the show was incredible. And I told him, yeah, I remember watching clips of the show on MTV. Like they were peeling to some sets of Korn, Metallica, Live. System of a Down, I think, played that show. I believe also. I was like, wow, what a great musical. I mean, that's like the last really true great musical era. Honestly, and I know people give like rock music not a lot of credit for that era, but I'll take that era over what we have today in a heartbeat. Even 10 years ago. So, God, what's the 99? 20 years already? That's insane. God, that means I've been out of high school 21 years. Wow. I'm turning 40 next year, so I mean, duh, getting old. All right, before I go, like I said, it's a shorter, somewhat pod. Like I said, I mentioned earlier that we're preparing for a mini vacation, somewhat. I don't want to call it vacation. It's a vacation, I guess, to get away from the house, but we in my family, on my dad's side, we every summer around this time we do what we call Cousins Weekend. It's basically it's my generation of siblings on my dad's side, which is my brother, my sister, all our cousins, and then our children, and we all get together in one place for a weekend, and we just fellowship, if you will. Now, I've never gone. Every year I try to go, something comes up. Last year we were going to go, and then I had a situation that came up last minute, and it caused me not to be able to go. And we used to be, the first few were done in Memphis, in my cousin's house. She owns, her and her husband own a really big house to house all of us. And I didn't go to any of those, unfortunately. Wasn't able to go. And then we started making it where we started taking it out of Memphis, and we started making it more different locations throughout the years. So last year, my cousin and his wife had their first kids last year around the same time. So we decided to make it more convenient for them. Instead of having them travel to Memphis this time around, we decided to, hey, let's just do this. Let's just go to them. So we ended up having Cousins Weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, I didn't go last year because something came out last minute, but I planned on going. I even paid for stuff to go. So that's money on the drain. This year, it's gonna be in Orlando, which obviously now is a lot closer for me because it's actually 2.5 hours from where I live. So what we do is we get a hotel instead now and staying in the same hotel, and then we'll probably rent out a cabana Friday and or Saturday and hang out there, have like a stationary area where all the kids and all of us can be together. So we have that coming up this weekend. So they're going, like my sister's in town already. She'll be there she's already there. She came in yesterday, so Sunday. So she'll be there for an entire week. I think my brother's going a day early on Thursday. And then me, my wife, and my kids are going to go on Friday. And we're going to go to Epcot first on the way up for the boys to see some characters. And then sometime in the afternoon, early afternoon, we're going to go to the hotel and check in and meet with the family. And we're leaving early. We're actually leaving back down home on Saturday night. Everybody else is leaving on Sunday. We're leaving Saturday night because we have work. My wife has to work a double on Sunday, and then we got school coming up for my oldest son on Monday. So we have work, unfortunately, that prevented us from staying longer. So we have that coming up this weekend. It's our first time going. Looking forward to it. I hope it's not chaotic, because this is a little different now too for them as well, because we're going to be in different rooms now in terms of the hotels and whatnot. I mean, it won't be in the same vicinity. We'll be in the same hotel, but the only stationary area we have where we can hold fellowship is probably around the pool area, which I'm looking forward to, because I need a vacation. I've been, my wife and I have been working our asses off the last few months, last year, to be honest with you, with the fact that we don't have days off together. We work opposite schedules for the most part, so we've been going. It's been going. So we have that now, and so this is kind of like a little bit of a reward to us to some degree. Although it's not really a vacation necessarily, it's a 2-day getaway, and then we're back home. I think we'll probably end up doing a vacation probably later in the year or early next year to kind of recharge. I think it's important too to even though you have life, you have bills to pay, all that, I think it's still important to make sure you take care of yourself, make sure you are able to find ways to get away and just kind of shock the system, shock your lifestyle a little bit, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, I think burnout is definitely a factor. Because look, bills will never go away, certain partners will never go away. It's okay sometimes to take some time to yourself, some time to your family, and just do something that's a little different. So while I won't consider this a vacation necessarily, I think probably sometime later in the year, I think my family will probably end up doing something on that end where we can just go get away for more than just 2 or 3 days. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's enough for me. On Twitter at EJChristian7. We'll be doing the next podcast. I guess will be the SummerSlam preview, which will drop on Wednesday with Mike and Joe, who also co-hosts with me the wrestling podcast, the Wrestling Retrospective, that you can check out on iTunes as well too. iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, iHeart, all that good stuff. So anyway, till then, see you guys later. Next pod. Till then.